Hi, good morning. Well, it's morning when I'm recording, so good morning. It could be like 2 a.m. for you. But welcome to week 4 of debate. I hope that week 3 treated you kindly. I hope week 3 wasn't overwhelming for you. If it was, I'm really sorry. It was not meant to be. It was meant to be a really simple dive into whatever topic you're going to be interested in for our debate coming up. And I hope that you were able to get through the week 3 assignment so that we can move on to week 4, because this week we're going to be thinking about what kinds of bills or resolutions exist in our U.S. congressional database that are related to your topic. So this week, we're going to be navigating that database and trying to find a piece of legislation that speaks to or is somewhat related to the topic you chose. Obviously, for some of you, that's going to be really easy because maybe you picked something that our congressmen and women would write legislation on. But for some of you, maybe you didn't do that, and it'll be a little more difficult to figure out what kind of legislation is even kind of related tangentially to your topic, but that is where we're going to have to get creative, right? Because really anything that we are interested in and anything that we're interested in, anything at all, in our own lives, our private lives, right? There is always going to be a connection in our public lives, in our public communities where issues are affecting more than one person. So if we can take the topics that we're interested in and think about how those are related to other things that affect people outside of our private lives, out in the quote real world, then we can start to think about what kinds of things, our congressmen and women might be writing legislation on. So that being said, you are going to be going into the congress.gov database. For some of you who frequent databases, it'll be really simple to figure out how to navigate that. But for some of us, that's going to be a little bit more complicated because maybe we don't spend as much time in those kinds of digital spaces. But I've made a tutorial for you guys. It's a document tutorial. It's not a tutorial of me talking you through it. But there are 5 steps involved in that tutorial, and I explain exactly how you would want to go through that. There are screenshots, so if you're using a desktop computer or a laptop computer or a tablet, it should look the way it looks in my screenshots. If you're doing it on your phone, it might not look identical, but I guess it'll look somewhat similar, right? So you're going to want to go through that PDF document tutorial this week after you watch this video, if you're watching this video. And that is going to lead you at some point to a bill that you're interested in. You're gonna go on that website, you're gonna do a keyword search. A keyword search could be one word, it could be a phrase. That is what you're gonna have to play around with. Learning how to do a keyword search, I know you've been talking about it a bit in research, is really crucial in order to getting the results in the online space that you want or that you're looking for. So you are going to have to play around with the verbiage. You got to get really creative, If you are interested in dolphins and you type in dolphins and there's nothing about dolphins, it's all lost. Not necessarily, right? What else is related to dolphins, right? Maybe you type in marine life, marine biology, right? We want to get bills that are related to what you're interested in. It's not likely for everyone that you're going to find a bill that speaks to exactly the issue you're interested in, unless you picked something really timely or something you knew that there was legislation on, right? But if you're into dolphins, then I'm also going to assume that you care a little bit about marine life in general, and maybe marine biology interests you, and maybe the health of our oceans interests you because the health of our oceans is related to the health of the creatures that live in the oceans, right? So then maybe we've moved away from dolphins, but we've moved towards marine health or ocean health, or maybe you're just searching ocean, or maybe you're getting even more abstract, now you're just typing in climate change, right? So we're just thinking of how it can somewhat relate to your topic, because now that you've researched your topic, you've sort of generated a little bit of interest for yourself, and you've created a buy-in for you, like, wait, I actually really am interested in this thing that I chose. And once you find your bill, part of figuring out your position is going to be from the angle of what you care about. when congressmen and women go ahead and co-sponsor a bill, which is, so when someone sponsors a bill, they're the person who is introducing that bill, who's written that bill. And when you co-sponsor a bill, you're basically saying, hey, I love this thing, and people like me in this chamber should also like this thing, and you should vote for this thing because I know we have similar interests. They're signaling to other members of that chamber that they should also be interested in this bill, and that it could probably be good for their constituents too, right? So when our legislators are looking at bills and resolutions, they are, for the most part, always supposed to be looking at those bills from the perspective of their constituents. What do my constituents care about, right? And we, their constituents, care about a lot of things. And not everything we care about is always going to wind up in a bill, and we might not think that it's in a bill, right? But bills and resolutions impact us in ways and impact the things that we do care about. So if we think like from your topic, whatever you chose, that we need to find a bill that's somewhat related to that, we need to use that sort of, we need to take that perspective that bills are not always going to explicitly, bills and resolutions aren't always going to explicitly relate to something that we're super passionate about, but they might have consequences related to things that we're passionate about, right? So if we have something that we're passionate about, can we backwards engineer that and find bills and resolutions that are related to our topic? Maybe it doesn't seem like it at first, but it actually is really related to our topic. Like, I really care about dolphins, and there aren't any bills or resolutions about dolphins, but this bill that I found on marine health is actually really related to that because dolphins are also part of the marine ecosystem, right? So you got to think about it from that lens. The Congressional Database, when you go through it, goes all the way back to 1973, which was the 93rd Congress, and you are totally welcome to go ahead and look at legislation that goes as far back as that. I'd like to keep the bills and resolutions that you look at pretty recent, within the past 2 years, only because you guys are going to be writing positions on it and talking and debating over whether or not you think these bills and resolutions are a good or a bad idea. And if it's a bill or resolution that happened in like 1980, there's always merit in discussing there's always merit in sort of picking apart any argument, right? Because you see how it works and it helps you think further on that topic. But for our purposes, I do want it to be something a little bit more topical. And by topical, I mean recent and something that people can relate to. So we're gonna stick to things maybe in the past 2 years. If you really have to go back 3 years, that's okay, but we'll try to stick within the 2-year range. And you'll see in the tutorial how you can filter through so that you get all the bills and resolutions from the past 2 years. So there is that. So after you go ahead and find your bill, and that might take you a hot minute, you know? You might sit there for an hour in the database, like scrolling, just looking and reading and looking and reading. And that's okay, because we gotta find one. So that might take you a little bit, but once you do find one, then you can move on to the assignment. And the assignment is sort of this legislation breakdown where you're gonna answer these questions. What problem is the bill solving? How does the bill or resolution solve that problem? And why should we care? And for the why should we care, you're gonna need 3 reasons. You're gonna need 3 reasons because any good argument is going to have at least 2 reasons, but ideally 3 reasons. Okay, any good argument is gonna have at least 2 reasons, but ideally 3 reasons, okay? So when you answer that question, why should we care? I want you to list 3 reasons that we should care. Because again, when we move on to writing our position paper, you're gonna have this information that you've already generated about your bill that helped you create a deeper understanding of it, as well as 3 reasons that we should even care about the problem that this bill or this resolution, that this piece of legislation is trying to solve. When you do list your reasons, you don't necessarily just want to use things that are your own personal opinion, right? You want to use things that are factual, so factual knowledge. You can use inferences from data, so like statistical inferences. If you read a study or you read something maybe academic and you drew a conclusion from that. That's the kind of stuff you can use. You always want to like reference them. And you can use personal testimony. You can use your own experience, absolutely. But you also want to be aware that it's not necessarily as credible as using something factual, something that you can hunt down on the internet, or inferences that you've made from data, which you can also sort of track down because someone can look at the data and see how you came to that inference. Personal experience is just your experience. I mean, you could be fabricating the whole thing, right? But when personal experience actually informs your position on something in a genuine way, maybe it was like an altering moment for you that changed your opinion on something. Those are things that you can talk about and use in your argument, but again, just keep in mind that it's not going to be nearly as supportive, and it won't be seen as credible as using factual knowledge or data or inferences from data, that kind of stuff. So you're going to want to think about that when you answer that question, why should we care, and have your 3 reasons. Because if you have 3 reasons that are just your personal opinion, or they're all just personal testimony, that's not really getting you to dig deeper into the meat of your legislation, right? And the problem that your legislation is trying to speak to or trying to solve, okay? So after you finish that assignment, you're going to take a quiz. The quiz will be on some of the stuff that I just talked about, and it's sort of like, it is like a knowledge check. A lot of the stuff is, when you answer those questions, you might already know because we've talked about it earlier in the year, or we talked about it in an earlier module, or you've talked about it in other classes. Some of it is really just true to this video so that you get an understanding of what it means to co-sponsor a bill, because you finding this bill or this resolution this week is in service of, in the following weeks, writing your position on that bill or resolution. And writing your position on that bill and resolution is going to be you co-sponsoring that resolution or speaking against it. So if you find one that you agree with, you're going to be co-sponsoring. If you find one that you disagree with and you write your position on that one, then you are going to be speaking against that bill or resolution, which is fine too, but we want to understand what that means so that when we move forward, we're really clear on that. So that is all you're doing this week. You're going to go through that congressional database. You're going to use that tutorial that I made, that PDF, to help walk yourself through that. You might spend a little bit of time on that website, but that's okay. Once you find a piece of legislation, a resolution, or a bill that you're super into and so excited to think about, you're going to go ahead to the assignment and you're going to do that legislation breakdown that I've made for you. You're gonna, wherever you see red, you're gonna fill in your own information, and then please just turn it all to like black, and then you're gonna turn that in. Then you're gonna go ahead and do that quiz, 4 questions on some of the stuff that I just talked about in this video, and that is all for this week. Moving into next week, we're gonna be using your topic, we're gonna be using the legislation, and we're gonna be using your brain to start writing your position so we can start moving into the debate part, where we're going to have a debate in the discussion board over all the various kinds of legislation that you guys are going to be picking this week. So if you have any questions whatsoever, please email me. You can call or text the Google Voice number. I've had a couple people do that and it works, right? I answer super quick. You can do that. You can also come to our virtual class. I really, really, really highly recommend that you do that, because for part of it, we answer questions. For other parts of it, you guys talk to each other, and I love that too. But if you don't feel comfortable asking questions when we're in class together, then you can always reach out to me at a different time. We can set up a one-on-one conference. You can give me a call on my Google Voice number, or you can just send me an email. If you send me an email, I will always respond within a day. If you text the Google Voice number or call the Google Voice number, I'll pick up pretty quickly. So if you have a question that you need answered like quickly, I would go that route. So use your resources, ask for help if you need it. If you feel behind and overwhelmed, also reach out to me. I am here to help you. We have some skills that I really want us to work on because I think they're going to be important for you in the future. I think they're life skills. I think being able to think critically and to have and exercise cognitive empathy and to constructively criticize people. I think those are all skills that will benefit you, not just in your academic life in school, but when you got into the real world, when you're working, when you're making friends, when you're existing in social circles, when you're consuming information online. So I really want us to build those skills. I don't want us to build those skills at the expense of you feeling really overwhelmed, especially in this time when things are really weird. So please reach out to me if you need help with anything. That goes for all of your teachers, okay? Have a wonderful week, and I hope I hear from you soon.